Hello everyone, Brad Johnson here, and I'm happy to do, once again, a top 5 questions for myself and for Adronis for the month of December. So the first 2 questions are going to be directed to me, and the last 3 questions are going to be for Adronis, so we're going to go ahead and dive right in. Question number 1. Brad, how do you end up remembering everything when channeling Adronis with all the information you've acquired over the years? It's because I don't. I don't really have memory when I'm really channeling Adronis. There are certain things that may stand out. There may be certain things that he'll say that's really profound, that will kind of give me like an anchor point, and it's just very fortunate that I have recording software. When I start recording sessions or I start recording events, I go back and I listen to a lot of the stuff that I think is really, really important or something that's really profound. But again, if something is really profound when I'm channeling it, then yeah, it really imprints in me. But I don't really have that much memory. In fact, I don't really remember about 90% of the clients that I actually do sessions with, because everything is just so much in flow. Because I'm looking at a person and said, did I do a session with you at some point? Like, yeah, Brad, we've done like 20 sessions back to back. Like, oh, okay, great. That's basically my mentality, right? So I don't really have too much memory when this comes in. But basically when a person says a question to me, it's like it's an intuitive trigger. I basically, whether I'm channeling Adronis or if I'm just going into the higher mind state, I basically just get this instantaneous knowing about what to share, what to say. So it comes to me very, very intuitively. So I don't really have like a photographic memory relating to all the stuff that Adronis has talked about or what I receive in higher mind. If I'm just doing a reading, like in the higher mind state, for example, I don't remember about 90 to 95% of the stuff that's being talked about, unless, again, it's something that I feel is very profound. But yeah, a lot of that I don't really have memory with. In fact, my memory is not very good. It's not a very good memory all that way. Somewhat in the long term maybe, but the short term memory, no, isn't too good. That's not a bad thing. That's just that I've really just worked to be in the flow, and I just enjoy, being in the flow and sharing this information as I get it. But when someone asks that question, that's the intuitive trigger point. And that's when I start receiving information again, and I can recall certain things that may have been said before. Sometimes there may be a little bit more juice to it as well. If it's, again, like a question that I received a while back, and then being able to have the same question asked to me again, being able to say something similar, but also being able to step it up with more juice, which means there's a lot more detail in it as well too. So that does happen. So I don't really have, again, that particular aspect of memory when channeling Adronis or doing higher mind. It's just something that intuitively flows with me. Question number 2. Brad, how did you end up creating the light circuitry attunements? And are they truly as effective as you said they are? They are very effective. And of course, one of my philosophies is making sure that if I do offer something to the public, I have to make sure I try it myself. And I did a light circuitry attunement on myself, and it was marvelous. It was like being on psychedelics without being on psychedelics. It was really, really amazing. And I had a lot of stuff still buried within me, a lot of emotional turmoil, even just not too long ago. And I just did the light circuitry attunement. I did kind of like the prototype test with it, because it is a combination of the abundance attunements that I've done in the past, and of course the light circuitry that I've been doing since 2011. And so I converged those two together, and I created a procedure with this incredible system and tried it myself. And it was about 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, I just felt like 10,000 pounds of energy weight just lifted off the heart, and I just was buzzing. I was just so excited. I was so happy. And I even put up a Facebook video about it as well too, just feeling so liberated, feeling so amazing. And I haven't felt that good ever since I did psilocybin last Christmas of 2015. That's how excited I was. That's how enjoyable it really was. And then I started getting clients afterwards, after I started saying, yeah, this works great, I feel amazing, so now I'm going to start promoting this. And then as I started getting clients, I've done probably a couple of dozen sessions already, maybe even more than that. And people have just had this incredible transformation taking place. Just being able to go into the method, being able to do the procedure, working with the emotion, and all of a sudden having that moment where they feel transformed, where they release it. And I feel it too. It's like there's just this residual shift that comes in, and I feel their love, and it's amazing. It's just, again, like those thousands of pounds of energetic weight being released off them. And I would say that, yeah, the light circuitry attunements is by far one of the most powerful healing methods I've ever seen. I'm not just saying that for my own state of self-promotion, but I'm also saying this in regards to a state of a procedure, of something that works for one person who has the willingness to work with their emotional states, to go through this and transform their life with this incredible technique. It's just amazing to see, and being able to see the joy in people's faces once they've felt that they've liberated that. And sometimes it's a very tearful journey. I've had people that have broken down and just had all of these powerful tears of liberation that followed. And it's basically a technique that one would experience if you were going into a very deep hypnotic state, like a somnambulistic level of trance. But basically, you don't have to do that. This is all very conscious. So it's kind of like going into a very deep hypnotic state without having to go into a deep hypnotic state, to really just feel like you're connecting to the oversoul, you're connecting with the higher self, and you're feeling this liberation come about. So it has been very powerful. So it is very effective. Everything that I say, again, is not just for show, is not for a showboating purpose or tooting my own horn. This actually works, and this has been something that, again, has changed my life, and with a lot of the people that I've worked with the sessions, it's changed their life as well too. So it is a very profound, very effective method. And again, that is on my website, so feel free to check it out. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and move into the Adronis questions. Again, this is the first time I'm doing it in my kitchen, and I think this is actually the highest seat I've actually sat on doing a channeling, so this should be quite interesting. So we're going to move on to the Adronis questions now, the last 3 questions. So we'll move on to question number 3. Adronis, can you talk more about Antarctica and what it really is? Also, do you believe its artifacts will be disclosed to the public very soon? The question we have received is regarding that of Antarctica, and will much of its artifacts eventually be disclosed? But firstly, yes, what is Antarctica? Well, the whole idea in that sense is that, as you know, many of you may know, that it has not simply been that of an ice sheet, that there is actually land upon Antarctica, and that the idea of Antarctica itself was never really meant to function in regards to what you would know as land placed upon the southern polar region of your planet. The whole key to the functioning of Antarctica is that it is the remains of an ancient civilization that we have termed the Law of One philosophers. Now again, this was just us hinting at it for a certain particular point, up into a certain degree where more information can be shared on it. So, to be more specific about this land that once occupied Law of One philosophers, that again appear to be very much indigenous in regards to how you would understand your Mayan cultures in that particular way, or even what you would know as your, shall we say, East Indian cultures as well. That this particular land was once the remnants of the land that you would understand as Atlantis. So you would state that Antarctica is Atlantis. Atlantis is Antarctica. And basically, many of the findings that you are discovering as it pertains to pyramids, as it relates to temples, being able to find much of this technology under the ice, even deeper entrenched beyond the surface into the subterranes, is again all part and parcel of the, shall we say, population that existed at the time of Atlantis. So you would understand that the areas of the Caribbean, from what you would know as Bermuda, Jamaica, etc., these are also remnants of Atlantis. Now again, the whole idea is that Antarctica would be what you would know as the main continent, or shall we say the remains of the main continent as it pertains to Atlantis. That again, it was even much larger than what if you were to, shall we say, strip off much of the ice sheets as it pertains to the land of Antarctica. It was actually quite larger than that. But again, much of the forms of land over time began to submerge through other particular forms of disasters that took place prior to the major disaster that resulted in the ceasing of Atlantis. But it is fundamentally true that there were other particular parts of land that were submerged, and again are under the ocean, close to the areas that you would understand as Bimini Island, close into the areas of, shall we say, Cuban waters, Bermuda waters. Also other particular forms of, shall we say, land that even drifted off into the areas close to China. So basically, Atlantis was broken apart in many different ways. But again, the largest remnant of that is Antarctica. Now, in regards to the second question, is it true that there may be a disclosure as it pertains to the revealing of Antarctica and what has been found? The answer is yes, although there is no specific date about when this is going to happen. This is all part and parcel in that sense of great amount of talks that are actually being discussed through many different world leaders right now. In fact, it would be no surprise that many of your world leaders are very much aware about what Antarctica represents, and in that sense, it is remnants of an Atlantean society. That you would actually find, yes, particular beings that are frozen in ice. You would find, again, other ancient temples. You would find ancient technology. These particular beings that are frozen are both human and also what you would know as extraterrestrial. So again, there is much to be shared there. It is true that there was once animal life as well that has also been preserved through the idea in that sense of what we would refer to as an instant ice age. Now basically in that way, the idea of how this took place was through the idea of, shall we say, certain forms of weaponry that was utilized to basically freeze Atlantis in its place. Basically very similar to what you would know as a type of, shall we say, cold fusion graviton bomb device. And this is basically what was utilized in regards to the times of Atlantis. It was based upon the idea of utilizing this because they were warned to stop. Because they did not stop, the idea of this cold fusion graviton bomb device basically detonated within the heart of the land of Atlantis and created what is known as this instantaneous ice age that took place and covered much of the land as it represented Atlantis, which then of course was the remnants of Antarctica as it exists now. That is primarily what has taken place here during that time, approximately 12,000 to 13,000 years ago. So, as it relates to disclosure, it certainly will be something that will be revealed, but there is no current time frame as it represents its revealing. We would say in that sense that if there was a projection, we would say anywhere between the times of 2018 to 2022. Now again, it is not too sure if it may happen 2017. That still is a possibility, but we feel it may be more on the cusp between 2018 and 2022, if at all pertaining to that likelihood of probability. Adronis, what will first contact look like, and how do you perceive it playing itself out when it takes place? As it relates to the idea of first contact, there are many different ways, many different opportunities to how it can play itself out. Though we do feel in that sense that the aspect of first contact will be what you would consider to be in that sense an official nature, something that represents a formality into something that will already be quite realized at the time. So basically we have projected that somewhere around the time of 2050, this would be the time, approximately, of what you would know as a first contact experience taking place, being recognized on a global level. Now again, when this announcement happens, we do not feel that too many people will be in shock, because there will be events leading up to the point of first contact that many people in that sense simply want to have an official announcement. And so the whole idea of the actual revealing of an extraterrestrial first contact in that way will not actually be so surprising when you look at an official announcement. It may surprise, in that sense, certain people, but the majority of the people upon your planet will already be aware that other extraterrestrial civilizations have been visiting the Earth for thousands upon thousands of years prior to the actual development of the human race itself. So we do not feel it will be something so surprising to many of you. It will just be, in that sense, in reference to a formality, something that represents an official statement. That yes, there are extraterrestrial beings, yes, there are certain amounts of them right now that are aiding us, that are helping us out, due to the permissions that we are all giving them. And that is primarily the work. Now yes, as we have stated, that through our association, there will be that of what you would know as the Yael, which will be one of the first particular beings that will assist in this mentoring capacity. Now again, they are not waiting for, shall we say, the full first contact disclosure whistle to blow. They will start to intervene, again, one person at a time, leading into certain groups that will assist you in helping you to understand more about the ways of outer space, the ways of different civilizations, how to work together in that form of mentorship with them. Other particular races may also follow suit as well. You may discover again that there will be much more of the inner civilizations, the Argothan networks, that may actually come forward and share themselves in regards to the humanoid capacity of them. You would also discover that there may also be other types of human races that will later on reveal themselves as well. But we do feel that much in regards to the time of a first contact will not fall upon the idea of a certain country, but more so through the idea of a certain council. Very similar at that particular time to what you would know as your United Nations, or something in regards to an entity similar to that degree. So we will repeat that. It will not fall under the responsibility of a certain country to therefore share disclosure. It will be the idea of like a unified council, many different nations coming together, like your United Nations, that would actually be able to broadcast this announcement. When this announcement is broadcast, not one particular station on what you know as your television would not broadcast this. It will be on every particular channel. It would be, in that sense, heavily shared through much of your internet media as well too. So basically, wherever there is media, there will be this particular announcement as it pertains to first contact. So again, as we've stated, this is not one country's responsibility, but the entire world's. And so therefore, it will reflect in that way. So again, between the time somewhere around 2050, perhaps a couple of years before, perhaps a couple of years after, would be around the time to where this first contact experience would take place, and that would be the ideal projection in regards to how it will function. But as we've stated, everything can change pertaining to possibility. Question number 5. Adronis, will we be able to actually venture into outer space within our adult lifetime as it exists now? The answer to this question is, to some degree, yes, depending. Now, the whole idea in that sense is right now, as it pertains to much of your space travel and space interstellar organizations, they are functioning much more in regards to governmental or commercial property, as it relates to the idea of space exploration, as it pertains to the idea in that sense of venturing into outer space. Now, we do feel that within the next decade or two, this may actually start to move much more into the possibility of a public forum or a community arena. Again, it may take a couple of decades. So basically, in that sense, to the adults that we would speak to, that are again an average 25 to 35 to 40 years in that sense, it may be within your time of what you would often refer to as close to your retirement age, that there would be much more of a higher possibility of going into outer space. It would be more probable that within your next 1 to 2 generations, this would actually be much more in that sense of a possibility. Now we know many of you in that sense would love to hear us say, yes, very, very shortly, many of you will be able to go into outer space and being able to travel on board different ships and go to different planets. No, not at this particular time. There are again select people on the planet that do have certain forms of contracts, agreements with certain beings that may have some possibility of that. And of course, many of you in that sense who are able to go out of body already understand exactly much of what interstellar space on an astral level holds for yourself. The whole idea in that sense of actually having a public technological means to being able to commonly travel through outer space would be more prominent within your next 1 to 2 generations. So as we stated, most likely within the next decade or two, quite possibly, that there will be an opportunity for more community-based organizations to come forward and begin the idea of certain forms of space travel. This particular technology would rely upon anti-gravitational systems. So basically working on levitation technology. That is primarily what is necessary to bringing yourselves more in public disclosure to actually go and venture into outer space. You will not do it with space shuttles. You will not do it with rockets. That is, again, very unlikely. Basically, what you would understand is perhaps maybe you're super rich would be able to do that. But really where we're coming from in this particular way is that the forum on a community level will be available more so through the idea of this anti-gravitational levitation technology, very similar to what you have termed flying saucers. That will basically be the type of technology that would be utilized for much of the public on a community level to travel within the confines of the star system. And even when this happens, it may just be that you are in that sense just brushing the Earth's stratosphere at first. And then eventually over time, as there becomes disclosure, you will notice that there will be more opportunities for many of you to venture into outer space. But again, this is something that is more so set within your next 1 to 2 generations of time.